It's time for Kaiju-aniacs. Godzilla, King Kong crack into each other in Hollow Earth. But then the Scar King's here. It's Kaiju-aniacs. We have CGI on rack. And we got lots of music and some humans and Kaiju-aniacs. Godzilla, the king of monsters, is trying to harness energy, and King Kong is here in Hollow Earth, just looking for whatever entertains him in a Kaiju-aniacs. And they have lots of crap in writing and character development and Kaiju-ani, totally insane. What the fuck was Godzilla X Kong the New Empire? Which was written and directed by Adam Wingard, who did Godzilla vs. Kong and other movies like VHS. In fact, he was involved in some of the VHS franchise. You may recognize some of his work. He also did You're Next and the 2016 Blair Witch movie. You know, that highly unnecessary Blair Witch movie that actually had a couple attractive women, and that's really about all I remember. Stop making Blair Witch movies, you cowards. So don't worry, no other writer for this particular movie, because there were four people that it took to write Godzilla X Kong the New Empire. I know it's Godzilla and Kong, but just X Kong just sounds better. X gonna give it to you. Oh no, the kaijus are gonna fry you and beat you with either an axe or some laser, I don't know, fire. I don't know what the hell I'm going on. DMX would be rolling over in his... Oh, wait, he is dead. Okay, for once I got it right. So, yeah, let's go with the other writers before we get into anything else. This is written by Jeremy Slater, who did The Lazarus Effect, the 2015 Fantastic Four movie, and Death Note on Netflix. Kind of explains a lot, but that's okay. That's just one other writer. What'd the other one do? Simon Barnett, who did You're Next, VHS, VHS2, Electric Boogaloo, Blair Witch, Seance, which I remember having a good concept and wasn't really all that great. And VHS 94. This is not looking all that great. But don't worry, Terry Rossio, not Russo. We don't have Vince Russo striking again. He did Little Monsters, not Real Monsters, but a Little Monsters movie that came out in, I believe, 89. I swear it had Fred Savage in it, or somebody that looked like him. He did Mr. Aladdin, sir. Yeah, he did the Aladdin, the good one, not the 2019 unnecessary live-action one. The Puppet Masters, 1994. That explains a lot. He also did the 98 version of Godzilla. You know, the one that Roland Emmerich did. That wasn't very fucking good, and they wanted to make a sequel out of that. Thank God they didn't. Mask of Zorro. He also did Small Soldiers. It was underappreciated. It wasn't great, but was underappreciated. Road to El Dorado. He also did Shrek, Treasure Planet. That's a movie I feel is very underappreciated. Pirates of the Caribbean 1, The Curse of the Black Pearl Necklace. I should call her. Also Legend of Zorro, The Lone Ranger, the 2013 one that was so bad and also proved that Armie Hammer is a nutcase. He also did Godzilla vs. Kong. Okay, that's a lot to talk about. Let's talk about the cast before we get into the rest of the goddamn movie, which doesn't have a lot of material. Am I tipping my hands to how I felt about Godzilla X Kong the New Empire yet? So, Eileen Andrews returns, the character, and also the actress Rebecca Hall, who I have loved since The Awakening. And also, she was great in The Night House. She's also good in Godzilla vs. Kong. She's also hot as hell, and just an incredibly attractive and gifted actress. I really love Rebecca Hall. Brian Tyree Henry, who was in Castaway, or Causeway, whatever. Castaway would have been actually funnier, because maybe he could have played one of the wooden logs on the raft, because he was about wooden enough to play one. And he's a good actor. He just wasn't allowed to do much here. You also have Dan Stevens, who's Trapper. Thankfully not played by a woman. Otherwise it'd be a Trapper Queefer. That's right. I'm just going to insult everything here. You have Gia, or Jaya, however you say it. Kaylee Hottle, who's the little girl, by the way, that, communicated with Kong and Godzilla vs. Kong. If you have not seen Godzilla vs. Kong, by the way, you're going to be monumentally lost. You might not necessarily care if you see Godzilla vs. Kong, but nevertheless, you have Alex Ferns, and you have Fala Chen, who makes an appearance later, and she's beautiful. I need to find out more stuff that she's been in. So, Godzilla and Kong must team up to stop An ancient evil force thing coming up from the depths of Hollow Earth where Kong resides, and Godzilla is sleeping on the surface and destroying Kaiju that just happen to be around. And then they must team up to stop this force because Kong can't do it alone, Godzilla can't do it alone, and we get smashy, smashy, smashy. Kind of, but not really. Once we get to the smashing, do you care? Do you care? I'll talk about that here in a bit. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the plot. So $135 million budget reportedly. I don't know if that includes marketing. I don't really care necessarily. Because Rebecca Hall is the biggest actress that they have here. Biggest name actress. And that's nothing against her. I'm just saying I don't think they spent a lot on actors. And yeah, this all ties back to Skull Island. There's the history of Skull Island, Kong Skull Island, which I need to, I guess, retro review because I came out in 2017. I probably should rewatch that at some point. I remember it being all right. I'm not watching the Peter Jackson King Kong movie because I just don't care. But yeah, so yeah, it's just continuing this MonsterVerse thing with 2014 Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters and Kong Skull Island and other Kong stuff and Godzilla vs. Kong. And now Kong, or Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. And how is it? It is boring. This is really, really fucking boring. I'm actually astonished by how bored I was. I watched this in 3D. By the way, make sure that your theater actually, the projectionist, actually understands how to adjust the 3D. So you're not looking at double vision thinking that you're Shawn Michaels past, the summer of 2004. Nevertheless, yeah, it's really boring. It doesn't actually end up expanding on the Godzilla vs. Kong stuff, which I thought was actually okay, in all honesty. I watched that on Max because it was during that year where they were where Warner Bros. Was releasing their movies in theaters and simultaneously on streaming. And Godzilla vs. Kong, once they fought, was okay, and it was a cool scale, and some of the stuff was nice. Here's the problem. Even if that, even though that was, that had a few too many people in the pot and everything, a few too many fingers in the pie, there was at least some life and energy, and it sort of made sense. They were fighting Mechagodzilla, and that was fine. Once it got to that, it was all right. The human characters weren't great, but they were kept enough to a minimum. There was enough of a balance where I felt, okay, this sort of worked. This cannot be compared to Godzilla -1, because that was totally different in a whole nother universe, whole nother stratosphere. There is no way that anything could compare to Godzilla -1. So I'm comparing it basically to the last few entries in this particular thing, and this might be the worst one. It's definitely the laziest one, because none of the characters are fleshed out. They actually feel like they've almost, retracted like any of the personality that they had. People will just go from location to location. We jump around to like 4 different locations within the first 10 minutes. We do see Kong do a few cool things, and there might be a bit of humor you could get out of this, but it's more like, than, look at the monsters smashing each other. Also, there's no element of danger. You don't get the sense that Godzilla or Kong are ever in danger. You sort of got the element, or the idea they might have been in danger in Godzilla vs. Kong, at least a little bit. Not here. And also, once we dive into more of the stuff of Hollow Earth, it probably was better that we kind of left stuff founded, because once we found out more, it's like, okay, now we're just hurling shit at the goddamn screen and just hoping that people won't realize that 4 people were writing this, and I really think that they were just having a goddamn cage fight, and only one was left standing, at least coherently, which would explain why the everything was just bogged down and Godzilla basically was out of quite a bit of the movie. He did a few things, and then he just took a nap for a while. It was more focused on Kong, which is fine. I don't mind focusing on some monster, on one particular monster. The thing is, though, character motivations change a lot. There is a preponderance of a backstory. There's really no shocking twists at all. And it's not dumb fun, it's just dumb. It's just really dumb, and it's numbing, and it's not good. None of the action sequences work. It relies too much on CGI. Instead of feeling organic, you just have Godzilla and Kong causing various, forms of destruction and everything to fight this ancient evil, which if you've seen the trailer, you know what the fuck it is, but I'm keeping that part spoiler-free right there. But yeah, you could see this in theaters if you want, if you're into that sort of thing. It's not great, though. In fact, I would basically quantify this as sucking. In fact, I would say, yes, it definitely does suck. because it just sucked the life out of me and the interest out of me. So I'm going to get into spoilers and talk about this, the spoilers for Godzilla X Kong. It's in theaters if you want to check it out. Let's get to the spoilers now. So let's hear it for the Kaiju. Kong is searching for more like him. Godzilla fights a Kaiju or two, including an evil Zoidberg, as I noted. Has weird tentacles and it's like a crab monster. And Gia, I think is how the hell you say it. J-I-A. I could just call her Jay, but then I confuse with Men in Black. She has a connection with Kong. She doesn't feel like she belongs on Earth because she's the only one left of her tribe. The only one left of her tribe. Spoiler, she is not the only one left of her tribe. It turns out the Iwi tribe are actually alive. They are very much alive, like Johnny Five. That's a reference I haven't thought of in a while. So, basically, Brian's character, the podcaster man, the one that had the Truth podcast stuff. Now he wants to basically, he figures out the seismic activity stuff because these were drawings that Gia did. Well, Kong has killed some things and goes back to kill and also explore Hollow Earth more. How much time has exactly passed? And here's a question. How much funding did they have to have these outposts, have this giant facility, and then these outposts in Hollow Earth, where you would think the communications would be difficult? They're also getting weird signals from Hollow Earth. Like, is it a call for distress? It's a call for war. In the, in the trailer, that's what they said. There is, I guess, one kind of sweet moment that they try to do between Eileen and Gia, where you belong to me, I belong to you, and because she's dead, they communicate by a sign language, which I can't do, just in case you can't tell. All right. Yeah, Bernie is just, the guy is funny, the actor is funny, the character is not. He's filming stuff for his podcast, then there's a line, once they discover the Iwi tribe, hey, you really think you should be filming this? Because every time indigenous people are discovered, it doesn't really work out all that well. So he decides not to podcast anymore. I guess. So yeah, there's this, I guess, funny part where they go to this, they go through the, tunnel, the time warp. Let's do the time warp again. And they find out that the outpost is destroyed. And then it's DK or KK, King Kong. And he ended up actually popping up before that because he had an infected tooth from something. He broke off a tooth because he got in a fight or he ate something. He ended up with a bad tooth. And then he got that pulled because Trapper is now a dentist. Bad writing, bad character development. No character development, actually. They play Twilight Zone by Golden Earring, which is a great song. It was 2 a.m. when they came up with the dialogue for this, I think. Meanwhile, Godzilla is fighting a couple kaiju, including evil Zoidberg, and then decides to go to a French nuclear reactor thing and suck off radiators, or maybe not suck off radiators, but reactors and SWAT jets, because that's what Godzilla used to do in better movies, not this one. So yeah, basically it's the Scar King. This weird, goofy, bendy, Slender Man-like Kong that's like the dark side of Kong. And he has a whip, a bone whip, with an energy shard that controls Shiva or Shima or Shima. This ice dragon thing. It's like, I'm just going to say Shiva because it reminds me of Final Fantasy. And that's better. But yeah, the fight scenes aren't all that great. Kong basically gets his hand destroyed by frostbite. And he's fucked. This one little shit gorilla that tried to attack him earlier, lead him into a trap, ends up teaming up with Kong because the Scar King kicks his dad into a lava pit. Maybe you shouldn't work next to the goddamn lava pit. Just a suggestion. But yeah, after that fight, basically this little shit, and I'm just going to call him little shit, even though I'm sure he has a name. I don't care. I don't think they ever established his name. If they did, I tuned out. But he sets up a trap and actually traps or, knocks out and kills some of these gorilla guards. And then Godzilla, meanwhile, after killing this one called Tiamat, I think is the name of the goddamn thing, he just sits in a fucking, iceberg, just in the Arctic, and just gains energy because there's this solar energy source there. Somehow in the hemisphere. Whatever, I don't really care. I shouldn't put too much thought into it, but this movie treats itself way too seriously for me not to. The fight scenes are not good. The action, they all blend together after a while. The Iwi tribe, they're still alive, and Gia must revive Mothra. No, really, man. Mothra just does a few things, hits, people with her webbing, its webbing, and then it basically can control Godzilla. Yeah, that's kind of how that goes. Mothra and Godzilla are in lockstep in one of the original, alternate kaijus. I say alternate because Godzilla still is the king of the monsters for a reason. And then, awakens Mothra, and then Kong basically gets, is all fucked up, and there's this energy field thing the Iwi tribe have, and there's these ancient stone things where if these two pillars collide, then they'll create this anti-gravity. It's the Iwi anti-gravity book. I can't put it down. This movie should have been put down, by the way. I don't know if it's coming across, but I didn't really like Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. So, suddenly, they mentioned, oh, hey, by the way, we have this, this power glove for Kong, basically. It'll heal his arm and give him punching power. No, really. It gives him donkey punching power. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why. It probably would have been better than this movie. But, yeah, they just happen to have it there. They moved it down to Hollow Earth, and then he gets it. They get in a fight. There's this point where actually Godzilla and Kong are fighting on the surface in Egypt, somewhere in Egypt. There's a Godzilla Plex, which I pop for, and then he hits him with it. They basically end up going into the goddamn, through the portal to Hollow Earth. They have a fight where the anti-gravity stuff is going on. There's this idea from Bernie just to mix this material in, and it'll collide and it'll do this, and then there'll be anti-gravity, and it'll stop this from happening, and Mothra can do their thing. How would he know this? How would he goddamn know? You know what? Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Once again, Falochan, is gorgeous. The actress who plays the little girl, she did fine. The thing is, though, they Meg 2'd her. I will explain. Even though it's been a couple of years since that whole thing happened, the character hasn't advanced at all. If anything, she's regressed. Not given much to do. Yes, there's the idea that Mothra needs to be resurrected by a little girl, or at least by a little child, and I get that, but, Gamera's friend of children, after all. But yeah, then back on Earth, they're in Brazil, they have a fight, and there's the whip with the shard thing that controls this ice demon. And then eventually, the weird, little shit gorilla comes in and smashes the thing with an axe that Kong had carried. And then the Shiva ghost thing, or the demon thing, or the Kaiju, the Freezy demon, or Kaiju, sorry. I'm struggling to figure out words here because the movie annoyed me by this point. Freezes him, and then Kong smashes him. Yeah, that's a great evil right there. He didn't cause any damage. Oh, he damaged Kong, and oh wait, we have this power glove for Kong. We have all this, that'll fix it. It's a get out of fucking jail free card. Every time they had something that even seemed like an element of danger, they just, get out of jail free card. Wait, we have this. Oh, wait, the tribe is still here, so you don't have to feel alone. And then Eileen is like, you can stay here. No, where I go, you go. And so yeah, Godzilla and Kong saved the day. This movie couldn't be saved. I'm sorry, but this gets an F. This is not good. This is not a 1 out of 10, but this is pretty bad. Pretty bad. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I'll see you soon.